Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. In each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and discussions with top restoration industry leaders. We're also going to delve into their business, the strategies that made them successful, and most importantly, the valuable lessons they've learned along the way. I'm your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer at Water Restoration Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping restoration companies nationwide secure more high-value water jobs. Now, this show, it aims to provide you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the restoration industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. I am your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer with Water Restoration Marketing. In working with restoration companies for the last 8 years, I've heard a lot of problems in the restoration space. And one of the biggest problems that I hear, and it's not like it's getting better, is cash flow, right? We know the insurance companies take time in terms of paying out these claims, and part of that's by design, right? Whether it's residential properties, whether you're going out and doing storm chasing, or you've got a local large commercial loss that you're waiting to get paid on. That kind of cash flow crunch can really cripple a restoration business. So with all that being said, it is my pleasure to welcome on the podcast today, Ilana Ben-Ezra. How you doing, Ilana?
Good. Thank you so much for having me, Clinton. I am so excited to be here.
We are glad to have you. So for the audience that's not familiar with Ilana, she is the president at National Claims Funding. Okay. So Ilana, give the audience a little background on yourself and National Claims Funding. And what's really important is I want to know how you managed to go from academia to the world of restoration and insurance claims.
Absolutely. Happy to share. So the company National Claims Funding was started in 2019, but we'll get to how I joined in 2022.
Okay.
My personal background is I went to school actually to study history. I ended up getting my doctorate in history. And in the process, I realized I really enjoyed studying history, learning history, but it wasn't leaving me fulfilled as like a full-time career.
Okay.
And I realized that towards the end of my doctorate, and so I was able to pivot and find something new. While I was finishing my PhD, I got a small job at a very, very young and very, very, very small fund doing investment research and like stocks and stuff like that. There was a little bit of a market hiccup and the fund had a change of direction. Around that time, it was at this point about 2021, 2022. So National Claims Funding existed, but it wasn't doing so much. And around that time in 2022, in June 2022, I joined National Claims Funding as president on a full-time basis to take what I had learned from this other small fund and to put it into practice and to grow National Claims Funding. My personal goals for the company when I first started was really just to get the word out there about what we were doing and what we were offering. And I'll delve much more into that as we go, I am sure.
Sure.
And to focus on being able to support contractors and restoration companies in their efforts dealing with insurance claims and getting paid by insurance companies.
Okay.
And so I've been really thrilled to have the opportunity to grow this company and to work with a whole bunch of different contractors and restoration companies who every day in and out are dealing with the insurance companies. And we're really here to provide them the support with the funding that they need to grow and operate their business.
I love that. Far too often, insurance companies do the work, right? Whether it's mitigation, rebuild, contents, they invoice, the scope of work gets approved by the insurance company, and what should be a 30-day pay or a 45-day pay, all of a sudden, a couple months down the road, they're still waiting on that payment. And that really can absolutely cripple growth, right? So from your perspective, why is cash flow such a big challenge for restoration companies?
Of course. You really nailed it. Insurance companies are not a good neighbor. They don't have your back. We could keep going, but they're not really in the business of making fast and easy and fair payments to the insureds or to the restoration companies who are serving the insureds and helping the insured to really fulfill their obligations under the policy of mitigating damage and restoring the property to its pre-loss condition. And so what that means practically is the insurance companies are not making timely payments. And so if you're a restoration company, and especially if you're not one of these very mega nationwide restoration companies, cash flow is really an issue because without cash coming in the door, you literally have trouble paying your employees. You might need to pay a salesperson who helps you find a job. You might need to pay utilities. You might need to pay if you've rented equipment from a supply house. And you might want to pay for more marketing. You might want to hire Clinton to help you grow. And if you don't have the cash to hire Clinton or pay your in-house staff, you're really stuck treading water. So cash flow is really king to growing.
Yeah, I remember having conversations with restoration companies and like horror stories, right? Like them almost going out of business because they've got $500,000 sitting in accounts receivable, and they're worried about making, a mortgage payment on the building that they use, right? Payroll, taxes, whatever the case may be. We know that the restoration companies are, not in the business of making timely payment. I think that's a really nice way of putting it. But it's nice that restoration companies out there have a resource like national claims funding so that, hey, I've got these invoices that need to get paid, but I need this cash now. Like remember those old J.G. Wentworth commercials? It's my money and I want it now. So you guys are providing an opportunity for those restoration companies to actually be able to have the cash flow on hand to make those payments, grow their business, continue to operate in normal circumstances there. Let's talk a little bit about you guys' solution, right? So for those who haven't heard of national claim funding, can you explain how you guys work in pretty simple terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So, national claims funding is solving the problem for restoration companies of timely payments and of cash flow. And what that means very practically in terms of what we do is we're able to take receivables that a restoration company will have that is payable from an insurance company for work that's already been done, and we can pay them in advance on what will likely be paid by the insurance company whenever that payment gets made so that they'll have a good chunk of that ready and available now to do whatever they need: growth, overhead, administrative costs. And so, very simply, we're converting that AR on the books into cash.
Can you walk us through what happens when, like, a company sends you guys an invoice?
Yeah.
What changes, outside of having cash flow? I mean, that really has a great impact on that business, right? What does the process look like, right? When we submit an invoice, if I own a restoration company, I'm on program, I send you guys an invoice. What's that process look like in terms of us, actually getting cash flow on hand?
Yeah, absolutely. So we try to keep things as simple as possible.
Okay.
We offer several different funding programs that we're always open to customizing to meeting the needs of our clients. And essentially, the two different types of programs boil down to whether the scope of the work has been approved by the insurance company or if the scope has not yet been approved by the insurance company. Those are sort of the two broad categories
Okay.
in which we work. So the simpler category is if the scope is approved by the insurance company, we know exactly how much the insurance company is going to pay, and it's just a matter of waiting them out.
Okay.
So we want to take that waiting burden off of our clients, the restoration company.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to say, the insurance company agreed to pay you. We'll make up a number and say $10,000.
Okay.
So we know that that's coming. You're going to get it, but you need the cash now, and you can't afford to wait 30, 60, 90, 120, 180 days. So we will gather your paperwork, which is going to include the invoice, pictures of the work, and then written confirmation from the insurance company that they're agreeing to pay whatever that amount is. In this example, $10,000. Will take roughly about 7 to 10 business days, hopefully less.
Okay.
Verify everything that you've sent us. We'll then offer you a funding amount. We'll fund you via ACH, so you'll get those funds within roughly 2 business days.
Okay.
And from there, we will be notified when the insurance company releases payment. We'll earn our fee. You'll get hopefully more on the back end from us as well, because it'll all work beautifully.
Sure.
And that's how it works when there's an approved scope by the insurance company.
Okay.
In our other program, if you've done an emergency service, or you've done work and you're just going to bill the insurance company, and we're not 100% sure exactly how much they're going to pay, because we all know that it's very important to bill fairly for our work, but we also all know that the insurance company doesn't always want to pay for the fair and important work.
Yeah, that's it's funny how it works out that way, right?
And so when we get those invoices from our clients, our job is also now to figure out what we think the insurance company is going to pay.
Okay.
And we have several tools at our disposal that we will use to figure that out. It's a combination of data that we've accumulated just over the years of doing this, Xactimate, and then a little bit of an art as opposed to a science.
So you guys have an in-house team that's familiar with Xactimate. They've got the tools necessary so that if I send you an unpaid invoice, an unapproved scope of work, you guys will do your due diligence and say, hey, Clinton, I know you think you're going to get $15,000 on this job. Our information tells us it's probably a little closer to 11 or 12. Does that happen occasionally when you guys are working with Restoration companies?
Yeah. That's definitely a scenario we run into.
Okay. Now you've got a new program, approved scope advance program. It sounds interesting. Explain to me how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the approved scope program, we're able to essentially, it's the first program.
Oh, okay. So, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Sorry about that. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
All right. So
The
we've got,
big difference that I would want to emphasize, that we really are able to advertise for restoration companies, and that makes a huge difference, is national claims funding is here to help. And we're here to advance funds, but we also want to make sure everybody is secure along the way, right? So we all know how we're getting paid. In the approved scope program, the way we do that is by having a bond in place to make sure that we're all just on the same team.
Okay.
When the scope has not yet been approved by the insurance company, we have to get a little bit more creative, and we generally require that there be an attorney representing the insured,
Okay.
simply so that the check goes to the attorney and the attorney can make sure that, the insured doesn't get the check and buy a new car, because horror stories.
I mean, I'm sure every restoration company out there that's been in business for years has a horror story, right?
Yeah.
Where a homeowner got a check that was meant for them and was used on a cruise or a new car or something like that. And I think it only makes sense that you protect you guys' interest in the claim. You also are protecting the homeowner and also the restoration company through
Exactly.
that, through either an attorney or a bonding service. I'm sure a lot of folks that are listening to the conversation right now are worried about like what kind of strings are attached, right?
Yeah.
In this entire process. Can you kind of give some insight in terms of like what happens in getting approved for your program and what that looks like?
Sure. So approval is really very, very straightforward.
Okay.
We do a basic background check on our customers, and the main thing that we are looking for is we're looking to make sure that there's no history of fraud, and especially of insurance fraud.
Okay.
You don't really care if you've gotten a speeding ticket. We don't care about, minor incidents. Life happens, but insurance fraud is something we're very concerned about. We're here to serve restoration companies, and we stand strongly behind good claims. And there are so many people who need help out there, that there's no need for fraud. And we take that part very, very seriously. So the qualification to become a client is relatively simple.
That's it, right? So we want to talk
Yeah.
about what that looks like. So if I'm a restoration company and I'm listening to this and I'm looking at a pretty big ledger, Boyd, for accounts
Yeah.
receivable, and I could use the cash flow, right? What do I need to do to get approved to be
Yeah.
part of the program?
Yeah. So approval's really very simple. We'll do a basic background check. We're really only concerned about fraud and insurance fraud, even more concerningly. We're not concerned about any traffic violations or any minor things like that.
Understood.
We also want to see that you don't already have like 5 UCCs or judgments or anything that would put us in a less secure position. And pretty much that's it. After that, what we're really underwriting is the claim itself.
Yeah.
We're not so much doing credit checks unless the bond company wants to do that independently of us.
Okay.
But we're in this for strong claims, and we're here to support restoration companies doing good work for homeowners or commercial property owners that need help.
Okay. Let's talk. So from the moment that I reach out to you guys, whether it's your
Yeah.
website or contact you guys via email, what's the timeline look like for the application process, just so I can get on the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to personally meet with every new client
Yeah.
so that I could just get a sense of what's drawing the client to us and how can we help. I like to understand really what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, if everybody's on the same page, I'll go ahead and I'll shoot out the contract within hours or minutes sometimes to just get the process started. The contract is not binding. A client could sign it and then decide, you know what, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to work with national claims funding, and it's fine. It happens, and you'll just be set up to work with us down in the line in the future.
Makes sense.
We have no obligations. You can send us a portfolio of invoices to review. We can give you a funding offer, and you could say, I'm not interested. That's also okay. That also happens. Once you are ready to move forward with funding, like I said, it's about a week or so
Yeah.
for the underwriting to take place, and it's about 2-ish days from there to actually be funded. So the whole process is very quick. If you wanted to reach out to me today, it would take about 2 weeks or so to get you all set up and funded.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about the types, because we work with restoration companies of all sizes at my digital marketing agency, and there are people that are listening to this podcast that might be an owner operator, one service vehicle. There are also people listening to this podcast that do tens of millions of dollars a year in restoration. Who is you guys' ideal client profile? Like, what does that restoration company look like? How many years have they been in business? Should they be servicing primarily residential, commercial, a mix of them? Do you want companies that only do mitigation, or companies that do mitigation and rebuild? Give me some insights as to who National Claim Funding wants to work with.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll say who we tend to work with, but we're very open to working with everybody.
Okay.
Our normal client is a small to medium size restoration company that primarily focuses on water mitigation, mold remediation, emergency tarp services. We've also worked with a few mold testing companies and sometimes even public adjusters.
Yeah.
But primarily it's companies that are going in and doing the emergency services, and companies that are, say, younger than 5 to 7 years old and that really need that cash infusion to continue growing.
Okay. Is there a revenue threshold? Whether they're making $500,000 a year or $50 million a year?
We love them all. We're
Okay.
happy to help anybody.
Well, let's talk about a portfolio of accounts receivable
Yeah.
advances, right? What is there a minimum balance? What's the maximum that you guys worked with in the past?
Great question. The average bill that we're looking at and that we're getting sent for funding is generally in that $7,000 to $10,000 range. So most of the time we're working on residential projects with our clients. We like to fund invoices in groups of 10 or more at a time. It's more efficient, it's safer for everybody, and the client gets more cash. So instead of them walking away with $2,000, they could walk away with $20, $30, $40, or $50,000. And we think that that's more interesting and more helpful for them. In terms of, yeah.
No, I was going to say I'm shocked. I'm glad that you guys are in it for the little guy, right?
Yes.
Not the guy that's out there doing these $500,000, $1 million large losses. Now, I'm sure you guys would work with them as well.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot more of those smaller restoration companies that are getting
Yeah.
in, doing, $5, $10, $15, $20,000 mitigation jobs because somebody had an emergency
Yes.
an issue with a water pipe there. So it's really encouraging to hear that you guys are out there servicing, the everyday restoration company.
Yes. And those are really our bread and butter. We've got thousands of claims and thousands of invoices that we've worked on, and the average ticket size is in that $7,000 to $10,000 range. So we're really here to help the restoration companies that are not yet national and that one day will be.
I love that. Let's talk, because I'm sure you guys have worked with dozens, if not hundreds of restoration companies nationwide. Can you share an example of one of the restoration companies that you guys have helped by providing this cash flow, right? What kind of impact has that made on their business?
Yeah. So generally, a lot of the time, restoration companies are coming to us because they see a tremendous opportunity. Whether that's an opportunity in their market following a storm, or whether that's an opportunity to work on a particular set of projects, or they just have AR that's been accumulating on their books. So for a number of our clients, and I'm thinking of one or two in particular, our funding has really helped them capitalize on market opportunities. So, for example, say there's been a tornado in your area or a massive hailstorm, or it's winter and a whole bunch of pipes have frozen, or you're in Texas or Florida and there's been a hurricane. All of a sudden, there's a whole lot of people that need help. But if you don't have the cash on hand to pay your crew, maybe rent some more equipment, put people up in Airbnbs if that's what's necessary, you can't go out there and work the market, help people get their lives back together, and ultimately get paid. So, what our funding has allowed our clients to do in those situations is go out, do a whole bunch of work, send invoices to us to get funded, and using our funding, go back out into the field and help another round of people. And that's really what we're here for, is to help contractors keep going and to help them keep helping the homeowners and the commercial property owners and anybody who's been impacted by these major events.
I love that. On a personal note, I have to imagine that you've worked with restoration companies that after that funding has been received, it creates a great deal of peace of mind. And having the access to you guys really gives them the freedom to kind of grow their business. So talk a little bit about the emotional side of this.
It's interesting because clients like getting the funding and they like knowing that once they have a relationship with national claims funding, that we're in it together for the long haul. But part of what clients have expressed that they really appreciate even more is that they have access to me, and that they all get my cell phone number and they can call, text, or email me for advice on how national claims funding can help them, what we're seeing in the market. And they've all really appreciated looking to us as a partner. And so we're not in this. We will obviously help restoration companies that have an invoice or two that need funding, but we want to build relationships. And that's part of what we really value is the human side of this and in seeing how it helps our clients grow.
I really like that. Now, I know laws are different throughout the United States, right? Are there any states that you can, or specifically that you can't work in?
So there's no states that we can't work in. Certain states are smoother than other states, but we're always open to figuring stuff out. We are solutions oriented. We want to get things done and we want to get people funded. National claims funding is here to provide money.
I like that. Can we talk a little bit more about like your personal journey, right? Because it's very rare that somebody makes that kind of leap from working in or potentially working in academia, right,
Yeah.
into working with what I call a blue collar niche, right? Even the guys that own these businesses were blue collar guys, right? So talk a little about work, going from from that to working with guys in the restoration space.
So, had you asked me 10 years ago, would I be doing this? I would said I really don't think so. I don't think so. But it's been a tremendous learning opportunity for me personally and individually because there's so much you could learn from people in all walks of life and from all corners of society. And I've really enjoyed that. Also, on a personal note, I should add that national claims funding is actually a family business. We haven't talked about that yet, Clinton.
Okay.
So, I'm actually in this. My father and I co-own national claims funding, and he was actually the brains behind it. So, part of why I joined in 2021, 2022 was to help him grow this and to come on as his partner. So, on the personal level, I've been thrilled to be able to work in the family business and grow this together. He had this idea initially because he's actually an attorney that represents insureds with damage. And so he really saw and understood the need that restoration companies have for funding. And it was a restoration company that gave him the idea to do this back in 2019. So we get it. We're working with restoration companies day in and day out. It's like the family affair.
I like that. I'm sure the entire restoration community can be grateful that that fund that you were working for decided to pivot, right?
They don't.
Negative direction. All right. So we talked a lot about what national claim funding can do for restoration companies. Is it just restoration companies, or there's some other types of contractors that you guys work with as well?
So that's a great question. The way we phrase it is we can help anybody who gets paid from the property insurance claim.
Okay.
We know that the insurance company is slow to pay, and we want to be creative in figuring out how we can bridge the gap between work done and settlement funds received.
I like
So
that.
we've helped public adjusters, we've provided funding for engineer reports for attorneys. We want to get involved any way we can be helpful. One of the other areas that we're exploring and that we are looking to fund is also roofer invoices. And specifically, we think the real need is in paying paying the salespeople their commissions up front so that the roofing company can continue to hire these salespeople and they could find more jobs. And it's not a cash flow issue for the roofing companies as well.
I like that. We've got a lot of restoration companies that we work with that are also own roofing businesses. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they'd be excited to have an opportunity to work with you there. Let's give the audience a little advice here, right? So you talk to restoration companies day in and day out. What would you say to a restoration company that's really struggling with cash flow issues, right? Do they need to go out and hire a controller uh, to help get a hold of their books? Do they just make a call to Ilana and the team? What's your personal advice, knowing that you come from kind of a finance background and now you're working in the restoration space?
I appreciate the question. For sure, they should call Alana at National Claims Funding. But before they should do that, they should also look at the claims that they have on their books and the AR that they have outstanding. Oftentimes, when we get involved, we like to take over the collections process on behalf of our clients. We think that's actually a major value add because that then frees them up to do the other work that they're very good at and not office and administrative work. So, to answer your question, what would my advice be? They should absolutely call National Claims Funding. Before or as they're doing that, they should look at what's on their books. Do those claims have calls to the insurance company or the adjuster in the last week? If not, maybe remind them that you're out there and waiting to get paid. We like to place calls regularly, call it, twice or three times a week to the adjuster on file. We also send emails to the adjuster and to the insurance company. So, potential clients and restoration companies struggling with AR should take those steps themselves because sometimes a nudge to just remind the insurance company that you're waiting and that you've done a valuable service is helpful in getting paid.
Well, that's very interesting that you mentioned that, because there
Yeah.
are restoration companies that have individuals, like entire departments
Yes.
in their business that's only job is to follow up with the insurance
Yes.
companies, is to follow up with those adjusters. If they're utilizing your service and have already turned those invoices over to you, that becomes, you guys are going to become the bulldog,
Yes.
right? And chase those folks down. So that actually
Exactly.
frees up my team members to do things that are a lot more productive in terms of bringing new business in. And
Exactly. That's exactly what we explain to clients.
okay, so if you're listening to this right now, and even if you don't own the restoration business, but you're the one that's responsible for going out there and chasing these adjusters and chasing these insurance companies and making the calls and sending the emails and sending the text messages, you can get a lot of work off your plate by getting the owner there to work with a lot of the team. Alana, if a listener is listening, if obviously a listener is listening, if someone's listening to today's podcast and they're interested in reaching out to you and National Claim Funding, give them some good or a good resource for them to contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to our websites at claims.com. That's natclaims.com. Fill out our contact form and I will give you a call. You can also give us a call at the number on the website and we'd be happy to speak with you or shoot us an email. If you are on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. National Claims Funding is on LinkedIn. I would love to connect and I would love to chat there. And really, those are the prime ways. And I would love to continue this conversation with any restoration company or any listener that has ideas about how we could help or wants to explore a partnership together.
I love that. We're and for you guys driving, you're out in the truck. with a bunch of, dehumidifiers or stuff like that. Don't pull over to the side and write this stuff down. We're going to put all the details in the show notes. We'll put all the details in the YouTube description with links for you to reach out to Ilana on LinkedIn and for you guys to reach their website and get their contact information. Ilana, it's been an absolute pleasure. Are there any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience before we let you go today?
National Claims Funding is here to help. We're here to be creative and work with our clients, and we'd love to connect. And we've also really loved to thank you, Clinton, for taking the time to speak with us today.
You've been an awesome guest. I know this is a real pain point in the restoration industry, right? I can't tell you, a week doesn't go by where I don't talk to a company, a restoration company owner that's complaining about his accounts receivable, complaining about an insurance company that's dragging their feet in terms of paying on a job that's been done for weeks. So it's really nice to have companies like you that provide that resource to the restoration companies that need it to keep that cash flow machine going so that they can continue to service their community and grow their business. So it is absolutely my pleasure. So audience, I hope you like what you guys heard today. If you do, make sure you guys follow us on social, right? Give us the likes, give us the stars there. And if you're so inclined, leave a 5-star review for us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts there. Ilana, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you stopping by, guys. If you like what you heard, we'll be back next week with an all-new episode of the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. Ilana, thank you for joining us today. And for the audience, make sure you guys stay busy, stay safe, and try to stay dry out there. Thanks again, Ilana.
Thank you so much, Clinton. This has been a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at waterrestorationmarketing.net. Again, that's waterrestorationmarketing.net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.